Barry Sanders was often the smallest player on the field, yet somehow he was the one every defender feared the most. He wasn't the type of running back who bulldozed through tackles like a freight train or lowered his shoulder to punish defenders. Instead, he did something far more terrifying. He made defenders miss completely. One moment, he would be running straight toward a linebacker. The next moment, he would vanish, leaving that same defender diving at nothing but empty air. Ankles were broken, defenders spun in circles, and entire stadiums erupted as Barry Sanders turned impossible situations into unforgettable highlights. But just as he was building a case as the greatest running back the NFL had ever seen, he did something that stunned the entire sports world. At the height of his career, still one of the most dominant players in football, Barry Sanders walked away from the game. No farewell tour, no dramatic final season, just a quiet decision that left fans, teammates, and the entire NFL asking the same question. Why would someone so unstoppable leave the game in his prime? To understand the legend of Barry Sanders and the mystery behind why he walked away, we need to go all the way back to where it began. Barry Sanders attended Wichita North High School in Kansas, and if you saw him during his early years there, you probably wouldn't have guessed he was destined for football greatness. For the first 3 years of his high school career, Barry barely saw the field at all. He was stuck behind the team's starting running back, who just happened to be his older brother Byron Sanders. Coaches believed Barry had speed, but they saw him as undersized and questioned whether he could handle the physical punishment that came with being a running back. Because of that, when Barry did get on the field, it was often as a receiver instead of a ball carrier. Heading into his senior year, nothing had really changed. Barry was still not the starting running back, and there were no major expectations surrounding him. But then, fate stepped in. 4 games into the season, the starting running back was suspended, and suddenly Barry Sanders was given the opportunity he had been waiting for his entire life. And when that moment finally came, he didn't just take advantage of it, he exploded. In just 7 games, Barry rushed for over 1,300 yards and scored 17 touchdowns. To put that into perspective, he was averaging nearly 200 rushing yards and more than 2 touchdowns every single game. Every time he touched the football, it felt like something unbelievable might happen. Defenders who thought they had him wrapped up suddenly found themselves diving at empty space. Barry would fake one direction, plant his foot, and explode in the opposite direction with a level of agility that seemed almost impossible. Fans quickly began packing the stands just to watch the kid who had come out of nowhere and was now dominating every defense he faced. But despite the incredible numbers, Barry Sanders was still overlooked by many college scouts. Wichita North wasn't known as a powerhouse football program, and many recruiters dismissed his production because they believed the competition level wasn't strong enough. On top of that, his size continued to be a concern. Standing around 5'8" and weighing under 200 pounds, Barry didn't fit the traditional mold of a running back during that era. At the time, the position was dominated by bigger power runners who relied on strength and physicality. Barry's game was completely different. Even Barry understood that. He once explained his style by saying he had to be instinctive and creative. He knew he wasn't the biggest player on the field, and he wasn't going to run anyone over. So instead, he focused on running around them. That mindset would define his entire career. Eventually, a few schools did recognize his potential, and Barry received scholarship offers from Wichita State, Iowa State, Tulsa, and Oklahoma State. He ultimately chose Oklahoma State because he believed it gave him the best opportunity to showcase his ability. That decision would change the course of his life and the future of Oklahoma State football forever. When Barry arrived at Oklahoma State, his path to the spotlight once again required patience. For his first 2 seasons, he played behind another incredible running back named Thurman Thomas. Thomas was already a star player and would later become an NFL Hall of Famer. So Barry spent most of his early college career returning kicks and serving as a backup. Occasionally, he would show flashes of the talent that made him special, but the full world still hadn't seen what Barry Sanders could truly do. That would change in 1988, when Thurman Thomas left for the NFL. Barry finally became the starting running back, and what happened next was one of the most unbelievable seasons in the history of college football. Barry Sanders didn't just have a great season, he had a season that felt almost impossible. In just 11 games, Barry rushed for 2,628 yards and scored 37 touchdowns. Both numbers that remain NCAA records to this day. Week after week, he delivered performances that sounded like something out of a video game. He ran for over 300 yards in 4 different games, including an incredible performance against Texas Tech, where he rushed for 332 yards and 5 touchdowns. Every defense knew exactly what Oklahoma State was going to do. They were going to give the ball to Barry Sanders, and somehow, nobody could stop it. He averaged more than 200 rushing yards per game and nearly 3 touchdowns every time he stepped onto the field. And those numbers don't even include his bowl game performance where he rushed for 222 yards and 5 touchdowns in just 3 quarters before being taken out of the game. By the end of the season, Barry Sanders had shattered nearly every major rushing record in college football. He won the Heisman Trophy in a landslide and cemented his place as one of the greatest college football players of all time. With that kind of dominance, it was no surprise when Barry declared for the 1989 NFL Draft. Scouts believed he had the potential to become one of the most electrifying players the league had ever seen. But once again, the same question followed him into the next stage of his career. Was he too small? The Detroit Lions held the 3rd overall pick in the draft, and their franchise desperately needed a player who could transform their struggling offense. When Barry Sanders was still available at pick number 3, the Lions didn't hesitate. In fact, they made their selection in just 13 seconds. Barry Sanders was headed to Detroit. From the moment he stepped onto an NFL field, Barry proved that every doubt about his size had been completely wrong. On his very first carry, he rushed for 18 yards, setting the tone for what would become one of the greatest rookie seasons in NFL history. By the end of the 1989 season, Barry had rushed for 1,470 yards and scored 14 touchdowns while averaging an incredible 5.3 yards per carry. He finished just 10 yards shy of the league rushing title, and the only reason he didn't win it was because he chose to sit out the final few plays of the season after the Lions had already secured the victory. Barry Sanders was named Defensive Rookie of the Year, selected to the Pro Bowl, and earned first-team All-Pro honors in his very first season. And that was only the beginning. Throughout the early 1990s, Barry Sanders became one of the most electrifying players the NFL had ever seen. The problem was that the Detroit Lions struggled to build a championship-caliber team around him. Many of the other great running backs of that era had strong supporting casts. Emmitt Smith had Troy Aikman and the Dallas Cowboys dynasty. Thurman Thomas had Jim Kelly and the Buffalo Bills powerhouse offense. Detroit, on the other hand, constantly struggled to find stability at quarterback. During Barry Sanders' career, he played with 10 different starting quarterbacks. Yet even when defenses knew the ball was going to Barry Sanders, they still couldn't stop him. His running style was completely unique. While most running backs relied on power and brute force, Barry relied on vision, agility, and the ability to change direction instantly. Sometimes he would run 10 or even 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage dodging defenders before suddenly exploding forward for a massive gain. Watching Barry Sanders run the football felt less like a normal rushing play and more like watching someone perform an incredible dance. Then came the 1997 season. At the age of 29, Barry Sanders delivered one of the greatest seasons any running back has ever had. After a slow start, he went on an unbelievable run, finishing the season with 2,053 rushing yards. He became only the 3rd player in NFL history at that time to rush for over 2,000 yards in a single season. Even more impressive was how he did it. Barry averaged 6.1 yards per carry and set an NFL record with 14 consecutive games of at least 100 rushing yards. That season earned him the NFL MVP award and solidified his legacy as one of the greatest running backs in football history. Fans didn't tune in just to see if Barry Sanders would rush for 100 yards, because that was almost expected. They tuned in to see how he would do it. Every game felt like it might produce another unbelievable highlight run. But then in July of 1999, the sports world was shocked. Barry Sanders announced his retirement from the NFL at just 30 years old. There were no warning signs and no buildup. Just a quiet decision that stunned fans everywhere. At the time, Barry Sanders was only about 1,400 yards away from breaking Walter Payton's all-time rushing record. Many people believed he would eventually become the NFL's all-time leading rusher. But Barry Sanders never cared about records or personal glory. For years, he had carried the Detroit Lions offense almost entirely on his own, and despite his incredible performances, the team rarely looked like a serious Super Bowl contender. Over the course of his career, Barry played with 10 different quarterbacks and watched countless teammates come and go. Eventually, the frustration caught up with him. Years later, Barry explained that he simply didn't believe the Lions were close to competing for a championship, and if he couldn't compete for a Super Bowl, he didn't see a reason to keep playing. His loyalty to Detroit had always been one of his greatest strengths, but in the end, that same loyalty may have played a role in his decision to walk away. Barry Sanders retired with more than 15,000 rushing yards, 4 rushing titles, 6 first-team All-Pro selections, and an MVP award. But perhaps the most remarkable part of his career is that he achieved all of it without ever chasing attention or the spotlight. He simply played the game the way he always had, letting his incredible talent speak for itself. And to this day, many fans still wonder how much more history Barry Sanders could have made if he had continued playing just a few more seasons. Because the truth is, the NFL has seen many great running backs, but there has never been anyone quite like Barry Sanders. And if you love stories about the players who changed football forever, Playbook will keep exploring the legends who left their mark on the game.